Previously. Good morning, Mr. Tesla. My apologies for having Kate drag you down here this early in the morning. My child, I brought you here today to offer you a job. You see, my business expands much further than gambling and underground fighting. You might even say that I'm in the middle of building my own empire. In order for my dreams to become reality, however, I require individuals with certain skills. All great leaders need loyal subjects capable of executing their master's will, and it just so happens that you're the kind of subject I've been looking for. A healthy, serious young man with desirable skills and a logical mind. Someone who can adapt to undesirable situations without batting an eye, and with no qualms about my business. I expect an answer by the end of the week. Oh my god. Chapter 7: Loose End. Two days later, Saturday night, September 24th. Tonight, as I did last night, I found myself in the bushes alongside my target's house. It's a quiet hiding spot that I found just yesterday, one in which I can catch the occasional glimpse of my target without being seen by or losing track of them. We don't actually know what he was specifically hired to do, right? It was sort of hinting towards like being a, I guess, hired murderer, hired killer, hired assassin, but it never exactly said it in those words if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I played the last video as well, so might have something to do with my horrible memory. But it sure pointed, especially like he's stalking his target or his prey through the window peering, so definitely points to that. As much as I'd like to just get this over and done with, I'm in no position to rush. Since the overwhelming defeat I suffered at the hands of Leon, I've done little more than rest. I spent half of yesterday just lazing around the house, not moving an inch, and certainly not giving a return visit to the gym any thought. But while a relaxing day at home sounds envious the most, there remained just one problem. Sara. Unable to hide my injuries from the watchful eyes of my twin sister, I copped an earful as she berated me for hours on end. She had no doubt grown suspicious long before I returned home, so when I finally did turn up in the early hours of the morning, covered in bruises and cuts from head to toe, that was the last straw. As easy as it's been to lie to my sister until now, this time she wouldn't listen to reason. Sara didn't believe for a moment that I'd simply gotten into a disagreement with a coworker, and she certainly won't drop the issue anytime soon. Every moment we've spent together since then has been filled with incessant questioning and skepticism, finally reaching the point where I couldn't stand my sister's company. I never thought there would come a time when I'd be so happy to leave my sister's side, but no matter how much I love her, there's only so much I can take. Now I'm actually welcoming the duty over which I've been sitting on the fence. Even if I have no desire to inflict injury upon my target, dealing with them seems more than a pleasant alternative to spending the night with my sister. In short, I'm running away from the harsh reality of my own life and taking it out on someone else. A light switched on in the bedroom of my target, revealing a slender figure beyond the see-through curtain. Yesterday, I followed my target home, returning in the dead of the night to survey the area more closely. I had sought to gather information on my target's routine and home, looking for any opportunity or entry point, some way to get into contact with them. Unfortunately, what I found only made the task seem even more difficult. My target resides on the second story of a house shared with two other people. All three occupants sleep upstairs, and the only way to get to my target's room without risking their intervention is through the window. At this point in time, my body is far too weak to make such a climb. Even at 100%, I'd have difficulty scaling the side of a 2-story house. Fortunately, I don't have any other choice right now. With the curtains drawn and the light dim once more, my target finally went to bed, signaling that it was time for me to make my move. Hoisting myself onto the fence, separating my target's house from their neighbors, I grabbed onto the gutter of the neighbor's single-story home. I steadied my body as I stood up, balancing on the fence, until the moment I made the first of 2 decisive jumps. I pulled myself onto the roof of my target's house, then quietly crept up to their window, unlocked, and let myself in. The moment I entered the room, my target's eyes greeted me unknowingly. She gazed at me through her eyes full of fear and confusion alike. Oh no. Something just popped into my mind. It could be that this is, he mentioned target, but it could be that this is not a job that we're doing for Karasu, but that we're actually come to, because before the demo ended, he had this idea in his thought that he had to kill Lucia to make her shut up and to ensure the fact that he wouldn't get caught for his earlier murders. Sounds weird, committing another murder to, make sure that you don't get caught for committing the previous 2 murders, but hey, if you've killed once, I guess it becomes easier after that. She gazed at me through eyes full of fear and confusion alike. Eyes that questioned whether the sight before them truly reflected reality and what would happen next. Too bad. I'd wanted to finish this while she slept. Perhaps I should have waited a bit longer. My target needs to be dealt with, but that doesn't mean she needs to suffer. She's done nothing wrong, at least not intentionally or with malice in her heart. She just needs to be silenced. Yep, it's Lucia, oh my god. Sparing no time for second thoughts, I unveiled the blade I'd so longed to test out. Not yet stained with the red release I yearned for, my blade flourished under the moon's rays, prepared to take its first victim. You're here to kill me, aren't you? Had the situation been a tad different, this girl may have been spared. But by this point, that is no longer an option. I progressed without saying a word, simply nodding in affirmation. Unsurprised by her fate, the girl didn't scream or try to escape. For every ounce of her being that desperately wanted to cling to life, the overwhelming consensus seemed to be that death was what awaited her. Will you at least tell me why? You should have kept your mouth shut, Miss Lucia. Oh my god. Content to abandon our conversation there and then, I traversed the final gap between us. Lucia didn't try to stop me as I closed in, or even as I sat down beside her. A short breath escaped her lips as I wrapped my arm around her and held her close, but she still showed no resistance. Then another breath escaped from Lucia's body, this time through a different opening. I gently traced my hunting knife along her throat, all the while keeping my left hand over her mouth. Lucia tried to scream, but the air instead escaped through the new slit in her neck, further propelling the blood spray I'd already induced. Finally, Lucia tried to fight back, but by now she had no strength with which to resist. Her teeth made no impression on the glove adorning her face. Fortunately for her, I had learned from my previous kills. No fingerprints, no abandoned weapons or articles of clothing, and from this position, no blood to stain me. As I calmly analyzed my situation, Lucia's futile resistance grew even weaker. All she could do was bleed to death, while I avoided the mess she was making. Concluding that Lucia had no strength with which to fight back, I began to look around her room, only then beginning to realize why she did what she did. Her walls are bare. She has no computer or television. CDs, not even so much as a poster or a handbag. All she has are books and a desk, both of which no doubt exist for the sole purpose of studying. Living like that, it's hard to blame her for seeking attention. It's only natural she'd crave a little excitement. Too bad she chose to do so by threatening my livelihood. Returning my focus to the task at hand, I noticed that Lucia had lost the last of her fight. Her lifeless corpse was still in my arms, kept upright only by the support I supplied. I guess my work here is done. Dang. Time to get out of here before... Lucia, aren't you asleep yet? Whether it was the sound of her earlier flailing or the footsteps of her murderer, Lucia and I had attracted the attention of her father. Oh no, do we have to kill them too? The thin door separating Mr. K from his daughter's cold body creaked open, revealing to him an unimaginable scene. I swear, if you aren't asleep by this time, I count to... Mr. K stopped himself mid-sentence, both physically and mentally unable to continue his train of thought. On Lucia's bed was the lifeless body of his daughter, and just beyond her corpse stood the teenager responsible for her gruesome death. And at that moment of immobilizing shock was all I needed. Oh my god! God! I pierced the night air as I plunged my hunting knife into Mr. K's eye socket, pinning him to the wall across from Lucia's room with phenomenal speed and ease. He didn't have enough time to raise his hands, let alone move out of the way, allowing me to drive my knife through the back of his skull with minimal resistance. Oh my god, he just stabbed him in the freaking eyeball. No longer able to speak or think, Mr. K remained frozen, standing only thanks to my help. Freed from the blade supporting him, Mr. K fell to the floor, unable to move an inch through his own free will. Even with Mr. K disposed of, however, my work was not yet done. That bastard! I should have muffled his scream the instant I struck. Thanks to his nosy nature and loud mouth, this is quickly becoming a massacre. Oh my god. No, Mrs. K, what are you doing? You're only going to get yourself killed now. Alerted by her husband's scream, Mrs. K was huddled into the corner of her room, whispering on the phone. I really messed this one up. I was supposed to deal with Lucia and leave. A quick, quiet job with only a single victim. But now... He's here! He's in the room right now! No, I don't know. It's too dark to tell. Please, just hurry up and... Cut off by the sound of tearing flesh, Mrs. K's eyes locked onto the steel blade protruding from her throat. Entering from behind, the blade made its way clean through her esophagus without any resistance whatsoever. And look at this. Look at that look on Suoh's face. He's like actually enjoying this. Ma'am? Ma'am! Are you still there? God. Mrs. K tried to speak, but with my blade lodged in her throat, doing so proved impossible. Her hand shook, and the phone she was holding rocked from side to side, descending as the strength required to support its weight failed her. Ma'am! Ma'am! We're sending a patrol car over right now! Just stay on the line so we can... Shock. Administering the final blow, I ended the conversation Mrs. K had hoped would save her life. Her body fell to the floor, lifeless and bloody, right next to her mobile phone. I calmly picked the phone up off the floor, cutting the call and immediately basking in the silence I summoned. Next day, oh my freaking god. Sunday morning, September 25th. A restful morning of cleared conflict and renewed affection. A morning of peace, quiet, and much needed proximity. Be it her forgiving nature or the absent warmth of her brother, Sara quickly dropped the issue that separated us only days ago. She has by no means forgotten, of course. Sara won't overlook the issue anytime soon, but neither will she allow it to come between us any longer. Even if I thought Sara was being unreasonable at the time, she's undoubtedly a much better person than I am. In hindsight, I think I may have scared her into forgiveness. She'd honestly been scared to death when I turned up in the early hours of the morning, bruised and beaten within an inch of my life. She wouldn't admit it, of course, but I could see the concern on her face as easily as she saw through my deceit. On top of that, I can only imagine how she felt when on Friday and Saturday alike, I disappeared in the middle of the night. I'm a rotten brother, aren't I? Despite my disappearances and deceit, or perhaps because of them, Sara sought to mend the relationship the second we began to drift apart. She agreed to stop asking about where I'd been and what I'd done, accepting that I wouldn't tell her, at least not yet. As much as I'd like to put Sara's mind at ease, I fear that telling her the truth would accomplish the exact opposite. I'm not the vigilante she's painted me to be, and I'm definitely not the kind of person she should idolize. Even if some of my despicable actions will inevitably pay the bills, they are nothing to be proud of. Hey, hold still! As I wallowed in my own melancholy thoughts, Sara continued to devotedly rub ointment onto my back. Though my wounds have been healing at an unfathomable pace, I am still bruised from head to toe, and there's no way I could hide that fact from the watchful eyes of my sister. Despite that, she's actually said very little about my injuries, or even about my job. I wonder what she'd say if I told her I was offered a new job. Sara might actually provide some much needed insight into the situation. I don't have to give her the details, just enough information to let her know what's going on. Say, Sara. Sara kept rubbing my back, seemingly unaffected by the long coming break in silence. If, hypothetically, I were offered a job, the kind where I typically only work a few hours a night, what would you say? This time, Sara stopped rubbing. She stared at my back quizzically for a moment, wearing a concerned smile the next. A safer job? Well, I don't know about that. Is it safer to slit someone's throat in the dead of the night than it is to extort money from them in the broad daylight? Either way, as far as she's concerned, yes, a safer job. As I confirmed her wishful thinking, Sara reacted with neither relief nor excitement. The line felt rehearsed, almost as though my answer was irrelevant. So, you might not be there when I go to sleep, but you won't be covered in bruises when I wake up? Hypothetically speaking? Pretty much. Sara thought my proposition over for a moment, silently mulling over the potential ramifications. Of course, even if she doesn't say a word, Sara isn't hard to read. On one hand, I would be safe, and I'd no longer need to fake 10-hour days. I wouldn't have to wake up early in the morning either. On the other, we'd have less time together overall. I might not be there for dinner. I might not be there at bedtime. Working nights, I'd also go to sleep later, and in turn wake her up later and miss out on our usual morning banter. A little later, and I might not be able to see her off. Personally, I don't mind what her choice is. I'm truly conflicted either way. This is a real lose-lose situation. Sara's movement slowed to a halt as her mind continued to drift further away. Sara? I just want you to be safe. She's lying. Yes, even I can tell that. Sarah's too honest to lie about her feelings so blatantly. Contrary to the concern she displayed just moments ago, Sarah wants me to take the hard, dangerous route. To her, my presence is worth more than my safety. Given the choice between a safe, healthy brother who she never sees and a cripple she can spend all day with, it seems she'd prefer the latter. Sarah finished treating my back, and the rest of our morning went by rather quietly. She spent her time reading and doing her homework, occasionally glancing at the television while my mind drifted towards a topic I couldn't afford to share. Isn't the murder of Lucia and her family going to be coming on the news then as well? It has to, right? Sarah has to know about it at a certain point anyway, like probably when the next time she goes to school or something, because she sought out Lucia at school as well before, right? So she would be kind of surprised when she's no longer there, and then she'll try and ask questions, I guess. And I don't know, usually when a murder or someone dies at a school, that's something that's big news at the school as well, right? That's not something that's going to be hidden. So I'm pretty sure she would find out very, very soon if she haven't already. Karasu gave me until the end of the week to reach a decision, and with night almost upon us, it would appear that I'm just about out of time. As if that wasn't enough, I also need to ensure that my work from last night went unnoticed. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing, like how... Well, I mean, we saw it basically cut off after the point where he killed the mother as well, so he basically slaughtered the entire K family, but he must have done something afterwards, right? He didn't just leave after that moment, just like, yep, I'm gonna leave this mess here, peace out. That he obviously must have done something to try and clean up behind after himself. After finishing off the final member of the K family, I located a bottle of bleach from under their sink, which I used to remove the flesh blood from my gloves and shirt. I then proceeded to steal some clothes from the late Mr. K's wardrobe, careful not to step in a puddle encroaching upon that room's doorway, and made my escape out of the back door. A few fences later, I was in the clear. I was fortunate enough to get out of there before the police arrived. But was it enough? Okay, so he left everything as it was, but he just made sure not to leave any traces that could lead back to himself. So basically leaving no evidence. Did the wife manage to tell the police anything before I killed her? Did I accidentally leave a bloody shoe print? Will some of my hairs be found at the scene? All it takes is one little mistake, and I could wind up in jail, if not the cemetery. That's why I was actually a little bit surprised that he wasn't wearing something like a beanie or a hoodie or something to cover his head, like, or a, what's it called, like the, you know, those hats that burglars wear, where there are only holes in the eyes and the mouth and maybe the nose as well. Despite my worries over getting caught, I felt no sympathy as I recalled the manner in which I disposed of Lucia and her family. Dang, we're just a cold-blooded killer. For all of my complaints about Marcus killing people unnecessarily, or my reservations about working for Karasu, in reality, I had already stopped caring. I know I should feel bad about Lucia, but when I think about how her lies could have got me put into prison, I just can't. What happened with her family members was unfortunate. They shouldn't have died like that. I was careless, lingering longer than planned, and needed to kill them to make a clean getaway. But now that they're all gone, I just... Pulling myself away from my dangerous thoughts, I found my sister staring at the television, groaning underneath her breath. Sarah? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Despite her claim, Sara continued to stare at the television, quietly voicing her discontent. What? Are you trying to turn it on telepathically? Shut up! And you mean telekinetically? Ouch. Even when she's miles away, Sara still corrects me. Do you want me to turn it on for you? No! I told you! I need to do my homework! Fine. I'll turn it on. Honestly, if you want to watch TV, just say so. I'm the last person who would berate someone else for not doing their homework. Here we go. Sitting in front of the television, not accomplishing a thing, I resolved myself to simply enjoy my sister's company. While she's completed her homework, intermittently changing channels on the television, I slowly drifted off, both bored and content with our current arrangement. We watched hour after hour of dramatized rubbish and copious advertising, wasting the remaining sunlight without regrets. But as the day dragged on and dinner time approached, Sara and I were finally graced with something we both wanted to watch. Or in my case, something I needed to watch. It's the news. Late last night, police received a frantic phone call from Mrs. K, mother of local celebrity Lucia K, who was saved by a supposed vigilante less than 1 week ago. When police arrived on the scene, Mr. and Mrs. K were both found viciously murdered inside their home, already beyond saving. Mr. K's death is believed to be almost immediate, whereas Mrs. K died more slowly from blood loss. There were no signs of a break-in, nor any indication that anybody had been invited into the home, leaving police without any suspects at the time. I quietly sighed in relief as I heard the good news, though I remained skeptical as to whether or not it was the truth. Why would police admit to not having any suspects or finding any trace of a human being there? I know Karasu alluded to the fact that police here are so easily bought off, but this smells more like a trap than a case of corruption. The sole survivor of this devastating attack, Miss Lucia K, is currently being monitored by police in the intensive care unit at an undisclosed hospital. Oh my god, she survived? Given the police commissioner's decision to release Lucia, despite the danger she was believed to be in, he is expected to... What the hell? That's impossible! She can't be alive. I slit her throat wide open. Uh-oh. No, I mean, the vigilante wouldn't do that, right? It doesn't make any sense. Nobody said it was the vigilante, though they do seem to be implying it. Speculation regarding Lucia's connection to the vigilante at large is already beginning to spread like wildfire online. Is this the work of the same vigilante who supposedly rescued Lucia not even 1 week ago? Or is this a revenge killing for what happened to her attackers? Personally, I believe that... Wait, aren't reporters not to give their opinion? I'm pretty sure reporters only have to report the news. They're not supposed to give their opinion about the news, right? Bah, nobody wants your opinion. Even after Sara turned the television off, I continued to recede into my own mind. Doubting what I had heard and seen, I repeated the events of last night over in my head, wondering how Lucia could have possibly survived. Impossible. There's no better word for it. Just impossible. Lucia was dead before she even left my arms. I felt her pulse reduced to nothing. I witnessed her final breath. I cut her throat to ribbons. I watched her blood soak her bedsheets. Even if the police arrived shortly after I left, they couldn't possibly have gotten to her hospital quickly enough to save her. It's just a trick to lure me out, nothing more. Exactly, I think so too, because they think someone specifically targeted Lucia, right, for this murder. So if the police then as a trick says Lucia arrived, and because they have no leads whatsoever as to who has done this is just trying to, a desperate trick to try and lure us out, because then they think that the person specifically targets Lucia. So if they say Lucia is still alive, that means that person will have to come back to finish the job, right? So that's just a way for them to actually get any information out of this, because apparently I haven't gotten anything so far, so it's just a desperate attempt, really. As I continued to indulge in dangerous thoughts, nightfall finished consuming the night, bringing an end to my predominantly uneventful day. Sara plowed through her homework, caught up on some reading, and still had time to roast a chicken for dinner. Oh yeah, chicken dinner. The news of her friend being in the intensive care unit didn't seem to faze her in the least. She didn't even react to the mention of the vigilante in whom she had previously displayed such interest. While I'm grateful that Sara didn't make a big deal of my outburst, I'm a little worried about her lack of a reaction. Considering our own situation these past few days, Sara's probably afraid to make any waves, not wanting the two of us to fight again. If that is the case, then I don't know whether to feel guilty or relieved. Once Sara was sound asleep, I quickly slipped out of bed, carefully placing her arms around my pillow instead. I tiptoed through the living room, then made my way to the door, remaining as quiet as I possibly could. Sorry to do this to you again so soon, Sara, but tonight, I have something more important to take care of. I'm guessing, yep, going to Karasu. Retracing the route I had been escorted along twice before, I used Marcus's key, which I received from Karasu after our last chat, to enter the stairway leading to Karasu's underground stadium. Once there, I then headed towards his office, not encountering a single person or well-lit room any set of the way. Faced with the heavy steel door I had last passed through only days ago, I knocked and waited for a response. Light poured out of the room into the dark passage, assaulting my eyes in the same manner as before. Once my eyes adjusted, I found Karasu waiting on the other side of the door, seemingly absorbed by the content on his laptop. Welcome back, Mr. Tesla. To what do I owe the pleasure? Is he serious? Sir, you told me that I had until the end of the week to reach a decision. Moments after I had spoken, the door behind me shut. I couldn't see or hear anybody else, so I assumed that the door shut automatically after a few seconds had passed. Ah, of course. I'd almost forgotten about that. Thought long and hard about it? Have I ever? It may be a forgettable matter to Karasu, but to me, it's a life-changing decision. Working for Karasu, being forced to do despicable things for impressive sums of money. When it comes down to it, that kind of a job offer is one I must... Oh god, the decision of our life. Oh my god. I have a few... I mean, you know... He really made it seem like we had a choice, but not really had a choice, if you know what I mean, you know? They say like, yeah, you can choose to accept or decline, but there's only one correct option in this choice, so I feel like I just have to accept here. Otherwise, we'll be going against Karasu, and going against one of the most powerful people in an already corrupted city, you know? I feel like there's no way to go up against that and to come out alive, so... I mean, just look at how he handled, not Marcus, but the other guy, Andre. Like, he just flat out murdered him. A guy that has been working for him more than 10 years or something, right? He was a veteran in the business for like 5 to 10 years at the very least. So, he just disposed of him just like that. So, that's a scary thought. Then again, that's even scarier, come to think of it, that if we're going to be working for him, we're also going to be exposed to just sudden disposition like that, without even a care in the world for Karasu. But holy crap, I just feel like the thing is, both of these options could end up in us being murdered. I just feel like accepting it results in the smaller chances of us getting murdered, if that makes any sense. So I think that's why I gotta go with it. I'm really not in a position to refuse, am I? Besides, I'm already working for Karasu, and it's not like I have any real issues with the kind of work I've been doing. If I can make more money working under him directly, then what possible reason could I have to refuse? I accept. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Be here Monday morning, 10 a.m. I'll have you meet your new co-workers. Wait a minute. Co-workers? I won't be working on my own? You will, at least for the most part, but I do employ others with your talent. You will be assigned work by your peers, participate in meetings to discuss potential targets. You know, typical business stuff. Typical business stuff, my ass. What happens if I fail an assignment? I wouldn't worry about that. There's a reason why I employ more than one person with your talent, you know? If you can't complete an assignment, one of your co-workers will step in. Though you should know that you get paid per successful assignment. If someone else takes on your assignment for you, they will take your pay along with it. Although Karasu answered my question, he still made no mention of what an assignment might entail, and offered no further detail regarding what my talent might be exactly. Oh come on, we already know. As he had from the beginning, Karasu appeared to be telling me the bare minimum, making sure I was on board before divulging more than necessary. So, any questions? Just as I began to wonder what Karasu wasn't telling me, the man asked an enticing question, as though sensing my unease. So it's not that he won't tell me, I just need to ask the right questions? Okay then, with everything Karasu's told me, what important information has he left out? Well, I feel like, okay, so if this is a test from Karasu and he's just trying to, you know, get us, he's not unwilling to give the information. He's just, we have to come up with the sort of information that we want to know. So it has to come from us. So we, as he said, we have to ask the right questions. But I don't feel like payment isn't really something that would be like on the top of the priority list. About co-workers as of Karasu's business, that might be a bit too nosy, you know. I'm not sure if he's willing to give that information away, but I feel like none of these options really jump out as this is the one option that I really want to know about, except maybe the co-workers a bit more than the other three. But other than that, it's not really something that jumps out at me. So I'm either really thinking of going no questions or ask about co-workers, but I'm gonna ask about the co-workers nonetheless. I think it just sort of feels like, if you look at it, that our supposedly talent, right, is the fact that we kill without any remorse or any feelings of sympathy whatsoever. We just kill, and we're stone-blooded in that regard, stone cold. So it just means that we are a group of assassins, each with their own individual assignments, or each will be given an individual assignment, or we can choose our own assignment, whatever. There are assignments on the list, we pick and choose which one we want to do and whatnot based on our skill sets and whatnot, that would think that, yeah, we're better suited to finish this job over another co-worker or something along those lines. It sounds really scary to sort of think about it, like, yeah, there's just a list of people, you know what, I'm gonna pick and choose, I'm gonna kill this one. Sort of, it's scary to think about that thought. It's just that easy for people to just like kill people like that, I guess. But hey, I'm not part of that world, so I'm not on anyone's list, I hope, so I shouldn't be really that scared. But still, the thought of death coming so easy to other people, it's just a little bit frightening to me. But anyway, what was I talking about? I already lost my train of thought. I guess our co-workers are just a bunch of other assassins as well, stone-blooded killers, and we just pick and choose what assignments we think we're fitted for the best. So let's just ask about it regardless. You said something about me having co-workers. I suppose that isn't the best word for them. But yes, you will be alongside other like-minded individuals. You won't typically work side by side, of course. For the most part, they will act more akin to backup. You will work independently, but still report to and assist your comrades. There are 6 others, 2 of whom you've already met. 2 we've already met? Leon is one of them for sure, I think. Who is the other one? Kane or something? Maybe Kane? We've met Kane, or the other guy. The other guy that was in the office here sometimes with him? I forgot his name. Sai? I think his name is Sai. Maybe one of those. I tell you more, but you'll meet them in person tomorrow morning anyway. Oh, so we can ask all of them. Okay, let's just ask all of them. When you say we're paid per assignment, just how much are we talking about? Oh? Curious about how much you'll be earning, huh? Your remuneration is proportional to the difficulty and execution of the assignment in question. Further to that, this service I offer doesn't come cheap. You'll never go broke working for me. Rest assured that you will make an easy living. The exact amount is up to you. Dang, I can choose how much money? $1 million. What do you do exactly? Me? You want to know more about yours truly? Well, I am kind of curious, but no, what I mean is, what is this business of yours? Marcus made it sound like you, pursue different avenues of income. Marcus, huh? Whatever that brat told you, forget it. Just do as I say, and don't worry about the details. As far as you're concerned, my business is that of an illustrious employer, one who rewards his employees very generously. No more questions. I had a feeling he might not give that much away about his own business, you know? Because the less people know, the better for him. So, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Ready for work? That's right. From Monday onward, you are one of my elites. Elite?